United States of America doing soft power in these countries, making these countries reliant on the U.S. and making those security cooperation agreements that come later down the line an overall easier one to sell to the broader public. Okay. Having said that, however, there is a lot of just insanity in the way that they're targeting things. Like they'll just be like, oh, well, they're giving $40,000 to a Guatemalan transplay, and then you look it up, and it's actually like a joint partnership agreement to fund the arts. Okay, between a Guatemalan university and an American university. It's like, yeah, that's not fraudulent expenditure. I think a lot of these dummies also personally think that like anything that they're doing in terms of, pro LGBTQ or whatever is not done at the behest of like later utilizing these existing relationships with destabilized countries, or at least to have some organization on the ground and develop a better understanding and do espionage if necessary. But instead, it's just because we're truly woke. It's a way to believe propaganda that liberals have put forth. Okay? It's ironic because that means you genuinely believe that the American government is doing things because they're kind. You have to be a real dumbass to think that the American government is doing things because, okay? Yeah, the American government is woke, and that's why they were doing aid. Ridiculous. They're doing aid so they can eventually utilize the existing relationships they've developed on the ground for purposes their partners. Also, none of it is fraud. Okay? As Adam Johnson mentions here, everything I ideologically disagree with is gay does not mean it's waste, abuse, and fraud. Do you understand? Like, well, I don't like this personally, so I think it's stupid and bad and abuse and fraud. It's a ridiculous way to do this, okay? Unintelligent person, alive, free. If you really find that US aid is not done out of pure goodness of the American heart, then name one thing US did wrong. You can't name one. It would be easier for me to name one thing that America has done that is, there's one that you can name in general that America has done for in the name of good, okay? Even Ukraine is a great example of Ukraine is on the right side in terms of morality, okay? Ukraine has an understandable moral position to rid its national borders of a military invasion. America's interest in Ukraine, however, which Trump basically revealed openly, is not so good. Okay? You can't go wrong back in Ukraine. That's it. You have to look at the situation and truly believe that America is always doing good things around the world. For you to assume that their Ukraine is good, even if they openly state that their intentions are not pure. Their intentions are impure. It's also short-sighted policy because there's a funding after-school programs for undeserved communities, DEI, and fraud, but the role of that program is to decrease incarceration, saving the state money. For example, it can also yes. A lot of those things, a lot of the initiatives like that, after-school programs and whatnot, seem costly, wasteful, and stupid. Like, they'll be like, well, they're doing like physical education lessons in the south side of Chicago or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that is an incredibly important initiative because as studies have shown time and time again, after-school programs actually significantly at-risk youth's likelihood to go and do crimes, okay? They're not doing it because they're woke and gay. They're doing it because it's obviously beneficial. It saves the government more money down the line as well. If these kids are not doing crime and then doing crime, obviously it's chaotic, stealing cars and whatever, are obviously going on. It's also better overall for the government now that you put a bunch of children in the system at an early age. It requires them to run a little free in order to understand these initiatives. Said initiative requires you to imagine an alternative. Instead of simply closing your eyes and going, God, I have these racist beliefs, these guys are intrinsically evil and inferior. I won't say that they're inferior because of their race, I'll say they're inferior because of their culture as a substitute for race. And that no amount of violent lessons is going to stop these kids from stealing Kias or whatever. All evidence points to the exact opposite, that these individuals are very helpful. And I don't think we can get very can get incredibly costly. The AP says it was barred from covering a White House event because of its editorial policy regarding the Gulf of Mexico. Today, we were informed by the White House that if AP did not align its editorial standards with President Trump's executive order renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, AP would be barred from accessing an event in the Oval Office. This afternoon, AP's reporter was blocked from attending an executive order signing. Ugh, so petty. It's so unimaginably stupid. Anyway, here, there was a decent question here in terms of conflict of interest. But if there's a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you receive billions of dollars in federal contracts, is there any sort of accountability?
For instance, you receive billions of dollars.
So wait a second. Hey, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict of interest. Sometimes people can be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately. Yes. But transparency is what builds trust. Not somebody asserting trust. So not just somebody saying they're trust. Transparency is what's happening. I mean, see, I think it's saying so
Millions of dollars in New York hotels in order to house migrants. Spending. That's the federal government actually trying to fix the crisis caused by Governor Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis by, without informing the local authorities, shipping, kidnapping, and trafficking tens of thousands of migrants from the state of Texas into the state of New York to play football with people's lives. In that process, the federal government has to step in and say, okay, for the overflow, we have to, in the interim period, we have to make sure that these people are housed. Okay? So what do? They pay the migrants. Okay? That is not wasteful spending or fraudulent spending. That's just an understandable thing that the federal government did. You know what is actually fraud? A conflict of interest? When you are the president and you own a bunch of hotels, you actually overcharge the federal government to stay in those hotels during the duration of your presidency, and you make money that way with federal funds. That's actually a conflict of interest. It's actually wasteful spending directly. That is a direct instance of fraud. That's what Donald Trump did. But of course, no one will look at that and go,
transparency or conflict of interest, and we watch that also. There's a big business successful successful dynamics.
yeah. So you got this, Elon Musk pushing into the financial services with a Visa deal, while immediately after taking out the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's crazy. Of course, not doubting you have heard of this till today. You want a source for Donald Trump charging the federal government over the thing that he just broke. Here, Trump overcharged Secret Service 300% for accommodations at his hotel. Also, oversight committee in this term, the world's greatest get-rich-quick scheme. It is such a transparent instance of corruption, too. It's crazy. Also, Donald Trump did a cryptocurrency wealth pool, dude. What are we talking about? That's one of the best ones in the state Not only is it Barack Obama that accelerated this process. Let's different stuff. This was a banger from the show over at Wisecrack. Captain's Talker was next to us. see the Democrats spend crazy with speed. You have like a and then we'll go back to some other. But yeah, that's the question. It's so fucking. Yeah, it should. Capitalism describes an economy that is slowly regressing to medieval times, where we're becoming serfs, tilling the digital land owned by our Silicon Valley feudal lords. And the end game of this project is replacing democratic government with privatized non-democratic spaces. One tech billionaire already heard in making this reality. Yes. Yes, it's always you. Announced support for a German far-right party election and agreed with their leader that pro-Nazi is effectively Nazi. It used the British Labour Party large-scale sex crimes in the U.S. to liberate the U.K. British liberation of the U.K. Like Trump's assistant regional manager, living in a 2009 Mar-a-Lago bungalow and running a government agency. Oh, and he's also using social media platform that he owns to hate speech. Now, it's easy to attribute this bizarre behavior to general and behavior, but then there's project. This guy is so annoying. Like most either, but I want to say more slowly. This guy literally comes in every day. He's so goddamn he's actively collaborating with the AFD, which is a neo-Nazi intern. He's actively collaborating with the Reform Party, the fascist movement in England. He's also openly stated that in an AFD seminar. It's
pass interference, defense.
like this dude is basically openly stating that he is. I just don't understand.
The penalty is declined.
Right? Now to understand, at first he was talking he's certain there's no way to climb the ladder of serfdom, gentry, no bootstraps. There's no market price.
Holding offense.
Changed in the 19th century, landlords were valuable commodity market. So landlords kicked the serfs out and invited them to come back. I like that. And also, the chatter came in here and immediately this guy spent 17 minutes making an argument. The chatter was like, stupid, right off the okay? Calling AFD Nazi is like